fact, it got to the point that the docket actually went missing. I commented on this on Monday, and somebody said, "Docket goes missing" is a South African proverb when it comes to the criminal justice system. Well,
hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. And in today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show for the first time is Barry Bateman. Barry Bateman recently tweeted that he has shifted his career slightly and has become part of Afriforum's private investigation unit. I reached out to Barry and asked if he would like to be on the show and explain what exactly his new role is all about. Barry, how are you doing?
Yeah, good yourself, Joe.
I'm good. Thanks again for coming onto the show and chatting to me. I'm very excited about your move or your shift. So tell us firstly, why did you do the shift and what exactly your new role is in Afriforum?
Yeah, Joe, it's been a long time coming. Anybody who's been following me for some time would see how my career has shifted. I mean, I spent a decade doing radio journalism, then moving on to television over the last 2.5 years. But my focus has moved, a lot into the courts, focusing on the legal aspects of journalism. And a couple of years ago, I started studying towards an LLB. And, it was a natural progression for me that I wanted to still stay in the media sphere. I love it. I absolutely enjoy the media, dealing with news and current affairs. But just from a different perspective. So I've wanted to move into a communications role where I would essentially bridge the gap between litigants or parties to court matters and the media. I see the gap because within the newsrooms around the country, and this is from print through broadcasting, that teams are getting smaller and smaller as advertising revenue struggles. So I want to make it a lot easier for newsrooms to be able to digest and disseminate matters related to the courts, where we no longer have dedicated court reporters able to do this for those newsrooms. So, for me, it was an opportunity. I met with Harry Nell actually to interview him on another matter, on a story I was covering, and I joked at him along the lines of, well, you need me to do your communications. And Harry simply said, "Would you accept an offer?" And I said, "I certainly would." And it was days later he called me, and we had a meeting and took it over from there. So I'm now the communications manager. I handle comms for specifically the private prosecution unit within Afriforum. And it's just about bridging that gap between the work that this unit is doing, which is within the courts, which is for parties to legal matters, and getting it out there to journalists.
That's amazing, because I know I'm in a bit of a legal battle myself, and it is taking the longest time, obviously because of the justice system in South Africa. The wheels turn slowly, unfortunately. And I think people get frustrated, because not everybody's always up to date. Not everybody knows or understands how the system works. So I think this is a great opportunity for you guys in the legal team to clarify what exactly is going on step by step. And as you mentioned earlier, you've rose to fame, if I can put it that way, with the Pretorius case and all the other cases that you've done, heavily involved in the legal system, reporting on it and all that. I want to ask you, questions come to mind, so I want to ask you this. Is there any specific case that you've been a part of, whether it be now or in the past, that stands out to you as your favorite case?
Yeah, I suppose from a court case, I mean, I've got a couple of stories I enjoyed covering, but from a court case perspective, it actually predates the Oscar Pistorius matter. And that was the murder of Chanel Henning. Now, this goes back to 2011. Chanel Henning was a young mother. She was going through a divorce at the time, and she had just dropped her child off at school. Minutes later, as she was driving down the road, two men on the back of a motorcycle pull up next to her, fire a couple of shots into her. She died on the scene. Now, that matter was also, interestingly, prosecuted by Harry Nell and his junior at the time, Andrew Johnson, and basically the whole team that went on to handle the Pistorius matter. But, there were eventually 5 suspects that were successfully prosecuted. Those, the guy who provided the gun, the 2 people who carried out the actual hit, 2 other people who arranged the hit. The next step in this whole case was to be the husband But unfortunately, they could just never make that final link. But it was a case that took several years. It was a successful case. I suppose in many respects, justice was found, but it was very interesting to follow. Given any conspiracy to commit murder, it's interesting in how the links are made and so on. Favorite story I've covered, I suppose, breaking the the Gupta landing at Vodaclove Air Force Base. It was a weird tip-off that I'd received from somebody, and it was a public tip-off on Twitter, but then, some information on the side from other sources. But nobody actually believed it, that these people would land a private aircraft at an Air Force base. And I was on my way to Johannesburg from Pretoria that following morning, and I saw all these blue light vehicles heading in the opposite direction, heading to the northwest, where Sun City is. And I called my editor. I said, listen, I've got information last night. Let me just quickly stop in at the airport. And there I found the Guptas and their big welcoming party. That was quite a highlight.
Nice, well done. All right, so moving back to your new position now, is there anything that you're busy with now that you're allowed to speak of that people can see, or an example of what exactly it is you do?
Yeah, so we just go to Monday this week. We had it was a huge success for the unit. It was brought to our attention by a mother, Ursula Kors. In 2017, her son and his fiancée, they'd just been engaged 3 weeks. They were on their way back from Mpumalanga on the N4 on one morning. And a drunk driver shot across the highway and crashed head-on into them. The young couple, they died on the scene. The drunk driver, he was visibly intoxicated. He got out of his car. He was driving a nice big luxury sedan, so he wasn't too injured. And the matter just went no further than that. It got to the point that the docket actually went missing. I commented on this on Monday, and somebody said, docket goes missing is a South African proverb when it comes to the criminal justice system. Well, Ursula Kors got hold of Gerrie Nel and the team with the help of the detectives or the investigators that we have in the unit. They reconstructed the docket, working closely with the police. They recompiled that docket. The matter was re-enrolled last year. And the matter was supposed to go on trial on Monday. We got to court and faced with an unassailable case against him. The accused, 5 years after this deadly crash, pleaded guilty to culpable homicide and drunk driving. It was a huge victory. It was a huge relief for the mother. 5 years after a deadly crash, she finally gets justice. And had it not been for this unit, it would never have got that far. The docket would never have been reconstituted, and the matter would never have been enrolled. We've also had a matter involving advocate Mpho Bachele. She's an advocate of the High Court. She was sexually assaulted by an acting judge at a party 2 years ago. She's been trying her best efforts to get this matter investigated, taken seriously by the various bodies. The police wouldn't, the NPA wasn't going to prosecute the matter until we got involved. Wrote a letter to the NP saying that the evidence is overwhelming. There's absolutely no reason why you can't enroll this matter. Well, we were in court this week. We've got a trial date. The matter will be going on trial in August. There's another case. Without the involvement of us, it would never have made it that far. And these are all instances of selective prosecution where, for whatever reason, in what we suspect in the advocate matter, the accused, acting judge, he's a senior professional in the legal fraternity. He wields some form of power, and people wouldn't want to, we suspect that's the reason why he wasn't prosecuted, is because of this influence and power that he wields within the criminal justice system itself. And this is entirely unfair. The law should be entirely equal. Everyone should be equal before the law. And this is just some of the work. So private prosecution is what the unit is called. And we do initiate those where there's an opportunity for that, where we can apply for a Nolly certificate in order to enroll such a matter. But we do a lot of watching briefs where we assist complainants to ensure that a matter is finally enrolled and successfully prosecuted.
Well, I got to admit, it sounds like a very exciting role. You guys are like the cleanup crew of the justice legal system, making sure that things get done. And I'm sure you've got stories for days of maybe some corruption stories or legal dockets going missing or anything like that. Can I just ask very quickly, are you guys looking at the DNA backlog at all? That's been a big thing in South Africa for quite a while. Is that something you guys have been keeping an eye on at all? Anything like that?
No, not that I'm aware of. I've been here 3 weeks. We've been dealing with new matters every day. I'm trying to catch up on some of the old matters that we sit and consult with clients on and so on. But it's not a matter that I've been briefed on specifically. But
Okay.
it is a concern. We know it's a concern, and it is the cause of huge injustice. But one thing I have picked up just being here this was about a month now. Sorry, not 3 weeks, is the persistence of gender-based violence cases. The number of such cases that present on Sharinel's desk where complainants go to the police, they have matters that go to the NPA of a gender-based violence nature that simply never make it to a court for whatever reason, whether a failure in the investigations or a failure by the prosecutors to adequately enroll the matter. But it's a theme that is persistent in the matters that we dealt with. And this matter related to the DNA backlog speaks directly to that particular issue. That is where, in many instances, there are unreasonable delays in court procedure, unreasonable delays in suspects or accused persons being held to account simply because of the state's failure to put enough resources into the DNA analysis and basically the entire facility and chain that goes into this kind of evidence collecting and analyzing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually appalling and quite. I mean, the lack of urgency that the government has on the issue of the DNA backlog is very alarming, and I've been following the story for quite a while. But I'm trying to get some updates. But I'll ask you in time, and maybe we can get further updates, and I'll have you back.
Sure.
Having said that. Barry, one final question before we end the show. I gotta ask, because people are, my viewers are gonna wonder for themselves. Are you of the opinion that the media is captured in South Africa?
Oh, it's a big question. I can speak for individual journalists and down in the field, and I can tell you that I've only worked with honest journalists, people of integrity, people that try to do their best under quite often difficult circumstances. South Africa is going through a very difficult time. And people often look to journalists. I must point out that South Africa is not unique or the media in South Africa is not unique in terms of what's happening globally and the growing distrust in what is called legacy media. And I see it. I see the people having distrust, and there are often instances where that distrust or mistrust is justified. We just got to look what happened to the Sunday Times in the last couple of years. They've subsequently withdrawn the stories related to, for example, the SARS rogue unit, the matter related to the Cato Manor death squad, all found to be entirely fabricated stories. Some of the journalists involved in those stories still persist with it as being the truth and so on. But it has eroded at the trust in the media. Perhaps another more current example is the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people finding, and also this reliance on so-called experts and so on, distrust has grown. While on the one side, there are people who absolutely buy into it and believe it, there is the mistrust that comes from the other side. And anybody who doesn't toe the line is, attacked and even by the so-called legacy media. And so it's been a difficult period. The media is going through a difficult period. The people I've worked with, I do not believe that they are captured. I believe that there are honest journalists out there, there are good people out there. Sometimes, certainly, there are mistakes that are made, but where mistakes are made, they must be, corrected and apologies be made.
All right, fair answer to that question, and I tend to agree with you. I think there are some good journalists out there. You're definitely one of them.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think you mentioned it on their interview with Ernest Roots. At the end of the day, journalists need to be unbiased and fair, and that's what makes good journalism. Yeah. And I 100% agree with you. So Barry, thank you so much for again your time, and it was great chatting to you. Hopefully we can do this again when there's a big story to reveal or anything like that. I'm glad you have you on once again. So once again, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Joe. Been a pleasure.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please do leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think of Barry Bateman joining the Afriforum Private Prosecution Unit? And also drop a comment do you think mainstream media in South Africa is captured? If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel. And if you really enjoyed this content, consider giving a super thanks or becoming a member to this channel. It goes a long way in supporting the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. With that being said, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.